Your time, your time, your time. Stop all. Make sure the children. We ain't coming. Oh, let's tell me why. What to do? And let we do a little. Sunshine! Hear what tells you. Leave your worries by me. For that tonight we have no. Well, let's sing it. We go. Hear what tells you. Leave your worries by me. For that tonight we have no. Well, let's sing it. We go. We go. We go to. Why? What to do? And let we do a little. Hear what tells you. Remember when we was before we had this, and you. So tonight, we. Why? Tonight. Come on. And let me do a little. Give Sampson and the band a lovely round of applause. Come on. When my fans and them tell me They find me correct going fine. I just simply have to tell them, Brooklyn, use the driving force behind. Use the one that gives me courage. Use the one that make me great, 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 great. So for that tonight, we come out here to celebrate. Oh, let's sing it, sing it. What? What to do? And let me do a little. I want to say you have been a beautiful audience. Black Stallion, love you. Love you. I love you. Yeah. The blacks. That for their tape. They're doing all that for the children. See, better. He coming. I'm waiting. Children, stop you. What your leader say? What you say? You wait and dead. 6 million for schools and 90 for bomb. 8 million for house and 60 for gun. That is the type of budget we're making. So get ready for this. Better days we're coming. 18-year-old joining up military to kill 18-year-old that they never see. That is the type of preparation to live in this beautiful promise. Better. It coming and we waiting. We dying. Children, stop your friend. What your leader say? What you say? Better days are coming. You wait. If a better world is the sole intention, better days are coming. I don't want it in words, I want it in action. Better days are coming. My son must live in fear and no madman. Better days are coming. Who can take up no bomb and cause no destruction. Better days are coming. What is not told to the old and aching would be revealed unto babes and suckling. Keep on doing you do. One day the truth go pick up with you. Better days are coming. He coming. Better days are coming. I'm waiting. Children, stop you. What your leader say? What you say? Better days are coming. Sing it one more time. Better days are coming. What? Better days are coming. I'm waiting. Children, stop your crying. What your preacher say? What you say? Better days. You wait and dead.
Black man himself, Leroy Calise, the Black Stallion, starting out with Black Man Feeling to partying our way. And then as they tell us better days are coming, wait. The better days, they said better days was coming in 2025. Then they said 2027. All you wait, better days are coming. Better days are coming. Good evening to you. And welcome to Politics 101. We are ready tonight. To get ready. We're ready tonight to get ready. We have a big team tonight, and we are going to be discussing tonight pressing issues It's Emancipation, and in another week, a week and a couple of days, we will be ready to celebrate Emancipation. As you know, on this program, we usually have an Emancipation Fund, and we are launching that fund tonight, where we ask you to contribute to our Emancipation Fund. Last year, you gave very liberally, and we were able to help with the Emancipation celebrations in Buxton. We were also able to contribute to Bella Drum, and we were able to contribute to Coffee 250 with their annual celebrations. Their annual symposium, the state of African Guyanese. So we are launching that fund tonight and asking you to contribute to our fund, and you will find out why it is even more important this year to contribute to our fund. The enemy is at the door. The enemy is at the door, and that's what we want to talk about tonight. They are trying their best. They are trying their best to disrupt our emancipation this year. They're trying their best. The government. Actors, usually have their folk festival on the 1st of August. They're taking government money, plenty money. I have been hearing some of the money they're spending to have a free concert at Multinose, which is just near to the national park. The PPP got some black people as front people to have this thing. So they're trying to sabotage Actors celebration. We understand they're trying to do the same thing in Den Amstel. They're trying to do the same thing in Region 5. They're getting a few black people, slave catchers, send them in the community and tell them go in there and put on a big sport, so as to sabotage the real thing in our communities. Of course, when we have our emancipation activities, we have to fund them. We have to fund those activities. And so it is very important that we fund our own activities so that we can offset the expenses. One of the things I hear some black people saying, well, man, ACDA charging plenty to go in. Well, ACDA has to bring all these artists, they have to get all these things, they have to pay for it, of course. And so they need to ask people to pay to go in order to offset the activities. Now in Buxton, we have a range of activities, starting with a church service on the 29th, and then on the 28th, sorry, and then on the 31st, we have our big Black is Beautiful concert at the Buxton Line Top, free of charge, of course. Our headline is Yoruba singers. Yoruba singers will be there this year with a lot of other artists. We will unveil them in the coming days. And then on the 1st of August, we have Big People Soiree in Buxton. And soiree includes not just having fun, but also feeding our people. We'll have all the conky and metem and cook up rice and so on, where our people can come out and have a good time. So that's on the 1st of August. And then on the 4th of August, we have the annual EUC Guyana Symposium. That's on the 4th of August. And then on the 25th of August, we will end the month with a business expo, where we are encouraging young business people, especially who are doing creative things, to bring their products to the expo, to network and to sell and all that kind of thing. A business expo. And we're encouraging people from Buxton and the environs to come there. and that is on the 25th. We're also going to be having an essay competition for 3 categories of people. We have the primary school and secondary school and post-secondary school essay competition on emancipation, because we think education is important. We're also going to have a poetry competition in the same 3 categories, the primary school students, high school students, and post-secondary school. So we have a large lineup of activities, and of course we have got to finance those activities, and we do so with institutions. And that is why we are starting the Emancipation Fund here tonight. We cover expenses in Buxton last year, and like I said, we were able to contribute to Bellatrum. We want to do that again this year. We were able to contribute to Coffee 250. And we want to choose another community this year to contribute, depending on what contributions come in. So we are launching that the Politics 101 Emancipation Fund tonight. You know the usual thing. Here we have the Cash App handle. There we have the PayPal handle. It's on the screen. And later on, I shall put up the phone number for those of you who find Zelle the easier way to go. So we are launching that fund tonight. And you are going to, tonight as we discuss the issues, you will understand why it's important for us to finance our own activities, because the enemy is at the gate and they're trying to disrupt our activities. They take away it part of G money. The subvention that the government give to IPADG. They are beating up on Black people. They're denying our teachers this. They're doing everything to break the spirit of Black people. And now, emancipation, when it's a time for us to get together and party, as Black Stalin said, the Black man come out to party. We to have a good time, to celebrate, to reflect, to observe, and they're trying to make a mockery of it by coming into our communities on Emancipation Day and trying to disrupt, to put our people against each other. We're going to be talking about that tonight, because you all have to help to beat back these people. So we have Brother Vincent here tonight, Brother Tacuma Ogunseye, and Brother Lincoln Lewis, who are going to be here to help us. They have already started to do some terrible things that the other one, Kwame McCoy, has launched an attack on Sister Olive Sampson, because she dared to point out what they were doing, because what they're doing is catching Black people and sending them to Black artists, offering big money to do these free concerts, free party around the place to undermine the real emancipation activity. That's what they're doing. Good evening to all of you. Those of you in Guyana and do not have the Cash App and PayPal and Zelle and so on, you have found ways to contribute. So please contact me. The number I will put on the screen shortly, so that you can make your contribution. Good evening to all of you. Good evening to the good people of Linden, who yesterday observed the anniversary, the 12th anniversary of the slaughtering of the 3 sons. Special good evening to you. Special good evening to all of you in the diaspora. Good night to you who are joining us from Europe. Good night to you. And good afternoon to those of you who are on the west coast of the United States, of Canada. Good afternoon to you. So let's get ready. Brother Tacuma Ogunseye, good evening.
Good evening, Dr. Ryan.
Brother Vincent, good evening. I am not seeing Brother Lincoln Lewis here yet, but we will go. Brothers, you have heard my introduction on what the government is trying to do with our emancipation observances this year. They have targeted the ACTA folk festival in Georgetown. They've targeted other areas. Some of them I'm not aware. I know in Region 5, they're doing the same thing. In Denamstel, they're attempting to do the same thing. Vincent, let me bring you in first because you have been on top of this issue. So bring us up to date with what exactly they are doing.
Well, emancipation has become just a moment in what they're doing. They're really seeking to target African Guyanese community, to co-opt them, and in doing so to demolish the genuine and traditional African Guyanese organizations, for the simple reason that the African Guyanese organizations have come together under a strategy in one voice and have made it unequivocally clear that what is required of the state, particularly during this decade, is that we embark on a process of enhancing legal and institutional frameworks, granting equitable conditions to people of African descent as a form of redress for what we have inherited from slavery, colonization, and the neo-colonial state. This government is in denial, probably on one hand, or definitely shares a different view about the people of African descent. And so they're doing everything to dismantle our unity and our organizations. And so emancipation is but a moment in this process. And in that moment, what they're trying to do is to undermine the traditional emancipation activities which have been hosted over the years by the people of African descent, and more particularly to stage an activity adjacent to the ACTA activity, which has been the main activity for years for people of African descent in terms of emancipation. So they're now seeking to stage an alternate activity in proximity to the national park so that they can physically distract people and otherwise distract people away from the ACTA activity into this free concert that they're purportedly going to have at Martineau. So really what is happening, it's a concerted effort on the part of the government to bring Ipadaji down. And bringing Ipadaji down means to dismantle the network of African Guyanese organizations, 78 in all at this time, who are members of Ipadaji. And they're brazenly even trying to tell people that these organizations have exited Ipadaji. That is not true. Ipadaji recently held its AGM. We were well for it. In fact, it's one of our better AGMs in the face of the onslaught from the government. So Ipadaji is very much intact, except for this subvention. We are very much intact, still doing our work. We are presently working with 38 organizations. We've been able to get some grant funds to give those organizations, and we're doing with them, on one hand, empowerment. On the other hand, they'll get grants to be engaged in the activities that their organizations are akin to. For example, agro-processing, poetry, piggery, all of that is still ongoing. So that when you hear that Corey McCoy attempts to write that people have exited Ipadaji, it is nothing close to the truth. And what we see of Corey McCoy is this man seemed to have a propensity to be associated with feces in one way or the other. We know of his involvement along with Abdul, who was found guilty for throwing feces on Freddie Kisu. And that was physical. And what he's now embarked upon is an attempt to throw feces on people in a figurative manner. All that he has said about Ipadaji And all that he said about our CEO and others is an attempt figuratively to throw feces. So this man seemed to have a propensity to associate with feces where they originate from and to use that to throw on people.
Brother Ogunseye, put in political perspective what we are seeing here. Clearly, this objective on the part of the PPP is political. Put it in larger political perspective for us. What is it they're trying to do?
I think it is very clear that what we're seeing is a continuation of a well-worked-out strategy by the PPP to dominate the country, and by extension, to dominate and to settle political scores with the African community. And I think they feel with the oil money, and they feel that the condition that they have African people from 92 to now, given our economic state and everything else, they think objectively, and I think they're right, objectively we are at the weakest. Politically, economically, and in terms of resistant culture. So we're very vulnerable. And I think they're coming in for the kill. I mean, I have to be frank. You know, I keep telling people at my age, I could close my eye tomorrow, they're going to say they put in bed. So I want to make my contribution before, you know, the ancestors decide why it's time me to come home. And I'm going to be very frank with our people. I'm saying, let anybody tell me, in the last 20 years, 2 decades, has there been any concerted analysis of the weakness of African resistance in this country? Have us bring to bear our intellectual minds at the highest level to address this question of the declining African spirit of resistance. We could find academic and other work and political work, and I want to take your program out of it because I think Politics 101 probably is the only thing that I've been really seriously dealing with some of this. But put you aside for the time being. We could find academic work on our condition, how they marginalize us. We could find work on our political problems, how the political system work against us, and all kinds of things, which are relevant things. But the African mind in Guyana have not twist to address this critical question, the state of African resistance. And as a person who have been studying our history and things, I know what is happening here is classical behavior that all oppressors from time immemorial implement to dominate and to oppress the people. You start by recruiting the own, empower them, and use them against the own. And it becomes the most difficult thing for the oppressed. If they come in with their own, it becomes almost easy for you to recognize what's happening and develop the appropriate response to push them back. But when they penetrate your own and set up a lot of slave catchers, as you correctly say, and insert them into your community and begin to do the nasty work, it takes that ethnic community capacity to deal with that hostile behavior. And it requires a serious, analysis by your leadership at the highest level to define the condition and to develop an appropriate response to push it back, or else it's going to get worse. And with eye on the corruption, I'm telling you, we got a small window. And I'm saying this not because I like to be on the extreme side of things, or I like to talk about these things. I don't know if anybody could show me any moment in history, any part of the world, where people are faced with oppression and domination, and they resolve it outside resistance. I will back off. I know nothing. I know of nowhere. And I know when I study the history of our country from slavery to now, every social and constitutional advancement we made in this country, we made it associated with resistance. We analyze the situation, then we decide to put resistance activities of one form or the other, whether it's trade unions, we build political parties, whether we demonstrate, whether we strike, whether we picket, whatever. We have to back it up with political activity, resistance activity, and the colonial power, make the compromise. Now we deal with internal oppression. It's the same thing. These are basic logical human history. And to the extent that we don't resist and find the appropriate points of resistance, we're going to be complaining all the time.
Brother Tacuma Ogunseye here, putting in larger perspective the attempt by the PPP to come into our communities and in this emancipation. Brother Lincoln Lewis is having some technical difficulties. I hope he sorts it out. But Ogun, let me stay with you. And because it gives you a chance to explain what is it you mean when you talk about resistance. How can we use this emancipation observations as a form of resistance, as a form of African resistance?
No, I don't believe that just find the appropriate response, piecemeal. There's things that we could do now. For instance, I would say that the African community have to recognize what the government is doing. Let me reduce it now to the Agro Emancipation Festival. The Emancipation Festival, is one of the single significant cultural activity of African people on Emancipation Month, on the 1st of August. We have to guarantee that what they're trying to succeed, that our people attend the festival and boycott the activity, and the activity must be like a damn scribble. You can't stop everybody from going, but relative to the emancipation thing, any objective witness should be able to say it was a flop. So that is the immediate response I think we will have for the African Emancipation Festival on the 1st of August. The similar approach to all the other activities where they're trying to promote, comparative alternative activities. But I think the problem we face can't be handled piecemeal.
Yes, we quite understand that, but we have taken into consideration your larger thing, and you've said boycott is one of the ways that we can do. Let me see. Lincoln Lewis is on his video, seems to have some. Brother Lincoln, are you hearing me?
I'm hearing you.
Oh, okay. You had a letter in today's papers, in the Stabrook News and the Kaitro News, in which you attacked this problem, and you spoke about the way in which the PPP is trying to use these observances to continue to dominate African people. Would you like to expand on the points you made? Well, not would you like, I'm asking you to expand on the points you made in that letter that appeared in 2 sections of the media today.
Let me thanks for inviting me in the first instance, David. Brothers and sisters, let me say to you that what is interesting about what the government does is that they have embarked over the years on a program in which they have said, you will elect your leaders, but we will manage you. We will put people to manage you. In the specific case of what is taking place right now with the emancipation, is that over the years, when this government came to power in 1992, there are two events that they attacked. They attacked Mashramani, which is a very important element in the celebration of the Republican status, and they attacked emancipation. They decided that they are going to close those two things up. The opposition at the time, led by Desmond Hoyt, challenged the issue of the Mashramani, and they put people on the road on that day. They said they are going to go there and be part of the Mashramani float arrangement. They had seen Mashramani, in fact, it was said by one minister that Mashramani was for one ethnic group, it's for Black people. So they intended to stop it. That act by the PNC has been able to repel the PPP and has contributed significantly to the sustaining and living of that event. As it relates to the Emancipation, Agda filled the breach. The African leaders in the society who were members of Agda took the lead and to have Mashramani, have emancipation celebrated. Not with what the government over time has done is that they have moved to take total control of Mashramani. They want to say who they set the rules, and they say who must participate. They put rules that they can seek to keep you out from it. Now they're with Mashramani, with emancipation. We have had over the years the African organizations doing their own thing or seeking to empower in various form, culturally, economically, or what have you, the African community. The PPP is not comfortable with that. What they have done, we have seen they have formed this organization, Association of People of Development African, so AAPDA. APAD. Okay, APAD, yeah. Let me tell you what. This organization was set up to undermine epidology. They have not stopped. They have been able to do a number of things to epidology, which is an organization, an African organization, which is seen as one of the premier African organizations in this country. They have done that, and they are not satisfied. The government is now financing them to undermine the one event, a one-day event that is being done by Agda. They are now moving to say that's what they're going to do. I have listened to the arguments by one of the representatives who said that last year they had to pay money for boot and the money is too much and so on. What is instructive? Did they ever met with Agda to find out the reason why they had to pay this money? And even if you want to help in negotiating the price, renegotiating the prices of seeing where Agda can get money to sustain this thing. They never did that. So it's only one conclusion I have. The conclusion is that they are doing the master's bidding. They are doing the bidding of the PPP government, which is divide and rule, divide to conquer. It is not surprising, but I hope that these people have stopped to think that what they're doing is undermining the struggles of our forebears. Those men and women who have fought against the abominable system of slavery. If those men and women did not fight, many of us would have born today in slavery. I hope that they have taken note of it.
Brother Lincoln Lewis here with his opening salvos. Brother Vincent.
Let me just clarify one thing that Lincoln made quickly. I mean, as a person who is associated with Agda, and Agda put out a statement on this matter on the claim that African organizations got to pay a lot of money to participate. It has always been Agda policy from the starting. We don't charge African groups, for any stall or any part of the park that they occupy. Once they identify themselves, we could identify them as African groups. Who pay for space are the commercial vendors, whether the African Indians, Portuguese, whoever thing. Eh? So we clear. So there's nobody could produce any real evidence, any legitimate African organization from the time the festival starts to say we ask them to pay for have a presence in the Emancipation Festival. That's blasphemy.
Thank you very much for that clarification there. Brother Vincent, Ogun has said that we should call for a boycott? Where do you stand on that? And are there other practical things we can do to beat back these people?
Certainly, it's only natural that if they are doing this in an attempt to crumble the genuine organizations and what they are doing, then the response has to be to boycott, because that's the only way in which effectively they will fail in what they're doing. If they get numbers into the place, then they will start to masquerade as if they are the ones who are mobilizing and representing African Guyanese interests. We know exactly that they're not doing that. And so what they'll be doing is pushing back on the African Guyanese organizations that seek to represent African Guyanese interests. And this is why IPADG is being targeted, because IPADG has mobilized the African Guyanese organizations. We've tried to be involved in raising consciousness. We've tried to be involved in empowerment. And they see this as building a network, a unity and a strength of the community against which they must push back. And so even as they have embarked upon an activity to bring Agnes' activity to his knees, we noticed that in the recent excursion of Koi McCoy, he's specifically attacking, in addition to Agda, IPADG, because they see IPADG as that body which now seeks to continue to pull together all the organizations, and Agda is a member of IPADG, all the organizations, the people of African descent. And notwithstanding what Kwame said, that we are on the decline, everybody knows now that we've been able, on the international level, to keep the fire going, burning, to keep the heat on, and we have seen what response they've had at that level. I think they made the assumption that if they stop our subvention, that we become silent. And they were surprised that we were able to still attend the various fora of the United Nations and to internationalize what they're doing. And as a consequence of that, a lot of pressure is being brought to bear on them. And a lot of people do not understand. You see Jagdi out there these days talking what they're doing about corruption and all of that. All of the things that he is saying, not necessarily doing, is a response to them being called to boards and now attempting to show that the things they have been accused of are not real. But really, he's responding to the pressure which is being brought, though to a large extent, that pressure is being brought to bear by external forces. And they're now responding and trying to appease those forces by suggesting that they're doing things to curb corruption and all of that. But even as they do that, they're trying to maintain the stranglehold in society at large and to break up the network of African Guyanese organizations and not to pay attention to the real issue of the decade, which is not about giving people handouts. The real issue about the decade is how do you introduce history into our schools so that people of African descent gain the kind of recognition and others recognize them? How do you reform the police force so the police force do not continue what started after emancipation, to be brutalizing people of African descent? Those are the issues that IPADG is pushing on. And those are the issues that they're pushing back on and attempting to suggest that they care about Black people by giving them pittance to do cultural activities. We have no problem with the Black people taking the money, but they must take it consciously knowing that their struggle must continue, because if we are going to really have change, and if our status is going to change, it is not a dollar here or a dollar there that will change it. It is institutional changes. Change the way the police deal with us, change the way the courts deal with us, change the way the education system deal with us, address our issues in terms of health. None of those are being done. And they were attempting to say that those are not issues. I heard Jaglio today saying everybody equal, everybody does get loans and everybody does get education. But if we do a serious review, we would see In this country, we have seen in recent times the billboards, where there's been a decline in the African Guyanese performance in the education system. The billboards are there to show it. And those billboards are psychological attacks on the African Guyanese. Young Africans seeing that start to believe we can make it. So that the public funds are being used to carry out a psychological warfare against us. As much as public funds are being used to drag us out of the struggle into petty activities that are not really going to make a difference in the lives of people of African descent in a system that is stacked against them. A system where Jagdio says, no, we get in small contracts. But he's not telling us to look at his budget and see where the money really goes in terms of being pro-business and pro-Indian, giving us pittance and telling us that's all right, we're okay. So that we have to understand that resistance is critical to what they're doing, and resistance has to take place in every sphere, as Tacuma said, cultural, economic, social, all spheres we have to have resistance, because the attack is on in each and every one of those spheres of activity.
Resistance has to begin now. It has to continue now. And we want to make this emancipation a period of resistance. And as Brother Tacuma has suggested and endorsed by Brother Vincent, that we need to boycott those activities. Call on your children, because they're targeting mostly young people. Call on the young people. Call on your children, your brothers, your sisters. Stay away from those activities. That's the first act of resistance. The second act of resistance is that we have to make sure that our activities are brought off, that are successful. ACDA is a big thing. We call our people to go to the ACDA activity. Make sure you go out there in your numbers and support that activity to continue to keep it as a successful activity. Politics 101 has launched our Emancipation Fund there tonight, and we are hoping that the contribution that comes in, we will help the activities in Buxton. It's a range of activities, a church service on the 29th, a Black is Beautiful concert to ring in the Emancipation Day on the night of the 31st. And then on the day of the 1st, a Big People Soiree. Big people mean when you're over 30. So it's not old people, as they would say. A Big People Soiree. Euro singers will be there on the night of the 31st. On the day of the 1st, Super Cat is going to be one-man band. Then we move to education. On the 4th of August, the EUC Guyana Emancipation Symposium. We have a big lineup. We're going to reveal the names in the coming days. Then we have a business expo on the 25th of August. In addition to that, we have an essay competition for children at primary school, secondary school, and post-secondary. We also have a poetry competition. So we'll be giving prizes to the participants, and so we have to finance those activities. This year, we hope to finance the activities or help to finance the activities in Buxton with your contribution. Belladrum, which we did last year. This year, we're adding Denamstel. Denamstel has an activity there that Sister Rhonda Lane has been spearheading. We intend to help with that activity with your contribution. So Buxton, Belladrum, Denamstel, and the Coffee 250, which holds its annual State of the African Condition Symposium. So we're asking that you contribute to the fund. The information is on the screen. Some of you have already, let's say Yonet, thank you for your contribution. Ingrid V, thank you for your contribution. Ozia, thank you for your contribution, brother. So please go to the Cash App, go to the PayPal, and the Zelle information is being scrolled at the bottom of the screen. The information is there, the Cash App handle, the PayPal handle, and the Zelle information at the bottom of the screen. I will put up a number where you can call if you're in Guyana and don't have access to those handles, where you can drop off your contribution. So thank those of you who have already contributed, and we urge you to contribute so that we can ensure that our activities are a success. We have to ensure that's one form of resistance. Boycott their activities, form of resistance. Ensure our activities are successful, second form of resistance. And we have announced the boycott here tonight. It's in your hands, you the people, to boycott those activities that they are putting on there. Lincoln, let me come back to you. Where do you stand on the suggestions of resistance? Boycott, one, and supporting our own activities.
I believe strongly that this issue is not about merely boycott, but it's a question here that we must support our activities.
Well, both. We said both.
Support,
so
right?
I'm asking
I want
where
to tell
you
you
stand.
something.
Where
I
you
stand first and foremost.
Yes.
First and foremost, right. Support our activities.
Yes.
Right? Support our activities. I asking people to boycott. I said go to the activities that are organized by us. And I would expect, I've said to my comrades who are near and dear to me, that last year I have not been at AGDA activity a long time because I've been going out of town. This year I'm going to the activity. I will implore upon all, even African leaders or leaders in the African community. You don't have to be a leader in an African organization, but an African, a leader who's an African. I implore on all of you, turn out at these functions. Turn out at these functions. Encourage your children, encourage your family and friends to make sure that we support these functions fully. We need to do that.
But Ogunseye, what are the implications? Because I think you have raised some important issues here tonight. What are the implications of what the PPP is trying to do to African people? Where could that lead our country?
First and foremost, it is an existential threat to African people's survival. It is as bad as that. If look, man, people who have experienced hundreds of years of slavery deny generational wealth and so forth, in the context of the economy, even before oil, the historical process, I don't want to put blame, but objectively, the historical process of been marginalizing Africans and Amerindians economically. Don't let me play the blame game yet. Let me try to understand the objective reality. When I enter into politics as a young person, you could watch the economy. You could say, well, Africans dominate public services, they dominate this, they dominate the Indian, they're in agriculture, Indian, they're in this, and you could make a thing. When I look at the economy as it stands, every area where I had an African historical dominance, when we start independence, Africans have lost, except in the army. The only place we seem to be holding the ground is in the military, army, and paramilitary. In the public sector, okay, I think it's 60-40. Something wrong there. So I'm saying Indians have been able, and I'm not blaming them and I'm not grudging them, but I'm saying objectively how the process unfolds, they have been able to be strengthening themselves in every area of national life at the expense, okay, of Africans, put in a simple way so the people could follow. And I'm not saying the Indian masses are responsible or the Indian masses, okay, something is aggressive in them that will make them behave. I think that this is a matter of leadership. And the Indian leadership from even before 92. Even before 92, and I don't want to get too far back, but in the 60s, okay, when the PP come to power, they decide on a policy of reconfiguring the colonial economy, and they do it in a way that advantage Indians. Portuguese was dominant in commerce. So they take the policy that, okay, that allowed them to be an ally of imperialism. You got to destroy Portuguese commercial interests, and you destroy by bringing Indians from, India, Suriname, anyway, blah, blah, blah. But all I'm saying is that the political and social process has worked against us. And we are in a bad situation economically. We are a bad situation because social economics is tied. Okay, we are a bad situation culturally because a lot of the real cultural problems of African people since independence, we have not been able to, as a community, sit down and address it. I know this because I am a person of Askria, and I know the fundamental issues of African cultural liberation that we were discussing, and we recognize since then is important to African liberation. We have not as a society been able to do it. And it's work as a deficit against us. And I'm at a point that even if you equalize all the indicators in the economy, economically, politically, everything, with African cultural deficiency, where we were stripped of our identity and our cultural sense of the world and thing, we can't compete. We're going to be outmaneuvered. We don't have the cultural cement in our head, okay, to compete. Make everything else equal, and you can see what happened to Africans. So we have some special challenges. Our liberation, physical, economical, and so is tied to our mental, okay, and cultural liberation to make it effective. And I'm saying that PPP is taking advantage of the Indian strategists who have been studying our condition. They know there's need more time. With this oil money in probably 10 years, they could even give Africa all the political power. It don't matter. And they can't do nothing with it. And to me, that is the fundamental problem we have going forward as a people. Party politics would not address that. Is why I say years before now that you need to develop an African community politics that could discuss and to work out these long-term challenges as distinct from the African electoral politics. But I don't want to spend too much time there because, but I'm saying these things are tied up. If you're talking about profound liberation, if you're talking about profound pushing back what the PP is doing, and even because even the PP disappear, some other PPP can come and do the same thing.
Vincent, Africans are faced with cultural and political and economic extinction. Is that extreme?
It is not extreme. I would categorize things differently to Tacuma, but not different in essence. The problems we have are psychological and material. When he talks about the cultural and so, I consider that a psychological problem. The way in which, and it has to do with this whole question of mental slavery, the way in which Africans were treated during enslavement, and the manner in which they were treated after emancipation has had an impact on their psychological being. And that is what has caused them not to be the force that they should be, even as they themselves sometimes recognize that they are in a bad way. And when you combine that psychological state with the material state, then it can't be worse. The psychological state is manifested in various ways. For example, those people of African descent who allow themselves to be used to enhance PPP control and dominance, it's a clear indication of where they are mentally. They don't even understand their own being as a part of a collective, and are joining to bring that collective to its knees. So we have serious psychological problems. And that is why we talk about things like history in schools. Because if African Guyanese are exposed to their history, starting with African civilization of the world and civilization of Guyana, we would be differently disposed in terms of how we interact and the things we do in this society to enhance our own being. We'd be differently disposed. Our value systems would probably also be quite different. That would make it possible for us to pay greater attention to the more important things. When you look at the question of agriculture, the PPP, in responding to the United Nations, they say we go and plant provision. Said, when you look at agriculture, you have to see how the system forced us out of agriculture, forced us out of villagization, and forced us into public service. And now we are attuned to that, but now we are attacked for that. So the very things that we have sought to use for our liberation are things which, in a sense, have re-enslaved us. Because the public service is subject to the politics of the state. And therefore, we are there in a position now where we are virtually re-enslaved. Not because we want to be re-enslaved, but because the system, the post-emancipation system, pushed us out of agriculture, pushed us out of economic activities, and agriculture was our main economic activity, into the public service. And now what happens? As a consequence of that, we were impoverished, and at the same time, we are identified as hogging the public service and therefore discriminating against others. So it's a minus situation we are in every aspect. And so we have to overcome the struggle from a psychological perspective and from an economic perspective. And that covers everything else, social and cultural and every other aspect. And so you have even our Black brothers and sisters, like the Minister of Labor, responsible for where they are because of how they behave. And he's unable to understand the historiography of where we're at and the fact that there is the need for struggle rather than accepting where we're at, as he seems to suggest we should do, accept where we're at, own people who are pushing the envelope in terms of saying where you're at is fact. The world at large, the United Nations, has recognized and said specifically that we are in a situation where racial discrimination, xenophobia, and the related elements of xenophobia are affecting us today. And therefore, things have to be done. And they have specified the things that have to be done are institutional. The way our organizations, the way the government operates, is stacked against the people of African descent. Whether it's the prison system, whether it's the police system, whether now is the employment system, they're all stacked against us. The economic system, access to funding, economic activities, all stacked against us. And those are the things that have to be addressed. Given our people, in some organization, some funds, to have a concert and to have some cultural show, and some funds to get involved in economic activities that are disadvantageous to us. When you hear about monies being shared out, for example, for aquatic in this country, go and see where the monies are geographically. And so their economic being is being enhanced. And that's not our problem. Our problem is that the state is discriminating against us in that process. And that we have to understand, to be conscious of where we're at, and therefore to take up the struggle to reverse the situation. And that is what the decade is about. That is what pedagogy is about. And that is why pedagogy has become a major enemy of the state. We never took on the state in any open manner. We were quietly doing our work. We went to the UN, we made disclosure, and they came against us, accusing us of all sorts of balderdash. You know, they said that we are a cabal who get this $1 billion over 5 years. We had employees. They've put those employees on the breadline, but they haven't affected those of us who are in the leadership of the party. We're still there. Without the money they say we used to have, we're still there, and we'll continue to be there because the struggle is essential and necessary, as Brother Tacuma has indicated. And so what's important now is for our people to be conscious and to understand what we're up against so that we can have a united approach to push back and overcome what we're up against.
And Brother Vincent Alexander there, tonight we are talking about ways and means in which we can push back against the attempt by the government, by the PPP party, to seize our emancipation observances and to make a mockery of it and going into our communities with big parties and to take away from the genuine activities that are planned by our organization. There's 78 African Guyanese organizations affiliated with IPADG, and I'm sure there are more organizations. Our people are organized. But the Tacumas raised the question here that that organization has to be done within the context of resistance, fighting back against what is being done to us. We have launched our Emancipation Fund there in Politics 101. Some of you are saying the writing is too small on the screen. If you are in Guyana, please call or WhatsApp us at 603-0010, and we will direct you where to drop off your contribution. For those of you who would like to contribute via Zelle and you can't read the fine handwriting, I understand because I can't read it without me glasses. The number is 602-920-0120, 602-920-0120. That's the Zelle number. And if you're in Guyana, you can contact us at 603-0010. And as we said, last year we contributed to Buxton, Belladrum, and Coffee 250. This year we're expanding it to include the observances in Den Amstel. So please make your contribution to the fund so that we can use that as part of our resistance, which is to ensure. I have to thank, I think a contribution just came in here, Sister Yvonne, who just made a contribution. Thank you very much, Sister. Ozia, Ingrid, and Yonette kicked us off. Thank you all for your contribution. I'm sure the people in those communities would be very glad for your contribution. Brother Lincoln, let me come back to you because both Tacuma and
Before
Vincent,
you go to Lincoln,
yes, go right ahead.
Before you go to Lincoln, could you allow me just to elaborate on this?
Yes, sure.
There is the argument by the man who likes to deal with messy stuff that people are exiting in Padaji. Let me debunk that. Our membership has not declined. What they've done is this. Wherever they have a small group of African Guyanese in a community, they are now labeling those people as an African Guyanese organization. That's what they're doing. So it's not a case where organizations have left it Padaji and are now clinging to the government. It's a case where they are labeling any 2 or 3 or 4 persons who are African Guyanese in the community as an African Guyanese organization, and are now trying to project those people as the representatives of the people of African descent, and are giving them funds to do activities to attract the attention of the wider African Guyanese community. And so we see, for example, APAD, which Kwame said has left IPADG, was never part of IPADG. APAD was formed the year before the last to compete with IPADG. So it's not a case of somebody leaving IPADG. It's a case where these front organizations, the PPP has been known for front organizations from time immemorial, not only in the struggle with people of African descent, in the overall struggle. They've been known for using front organizations. I have the experience in the 70s. And I think Tacuma could attest to this. I think he saw it up front. Where when we had to go to a festival in Cuba, they created 30-something organizations. All of them had one address and one set of people to go to that festival, when the people of African descent had genuine organizations. And so that is what they do. It is some regard related to some Eastern cultures that they adopt. And that is what is happening here. And what they have also done, let us bear in mind that monies for emancipation have been distributed all the time. That's nothing new. What they have done is to take the subvention and to attempt to create another set of handouts. And let us be clear, to a very large extent, in this year, even the PADG organizations are not the beneficiaries of the subvention that they say they're giving to the groups that are in PADG. The beneficiaries are largely now the bodies that they have created. But those bodies have no room. What to do in some instances is to turn back to the traditional organizations and try to link up with them to do things in the community, because they themselves have no real reach in the African Guyanese community.
Very important information there, Vincent, because government has always given some small donations to African organizations around emancipation time. It was a practice that was started way back. It continued under the PPP, was streamlined under the APNU AFC. Vincent and myself had something to do. And so Vincent is right. The Ministry of Culture has always given small donations to African Guyanese organizations. We understand they do so for other ethnic groups when they have their celebrations. This new thing is that the monies, the funds that they took away from IPADG, they're ostensibly giving it now to these organizations that they have formed with an organization, these organizations of slave catchers. And that's where they're taking the money that should have gone to IPADG, and they're using that to undermine our festivities during this period. Lincoln, let me bring you in. You've heard Brother Tacuma, you've heard Brother Vincent. Are we exaggerating when we say that African Guyanese face cultural, economic, and political extinction in Guyana?
Let me say to you that there was some time during the previous PPP government when I spoke around 2000, when I spoke about economic genocide in the African community. And I remember vividly, there were a number of African leaders who met me and said, we have not proven the point. I have not been able to prove the point that economic genocide existed in the African community. I have lived to see some of them not only, they did not, it's not that they're standing with us. Some are still standing with me over here, but some have joined the PPP. Let me say to you that This is an orchestrated plan by the PPP to really subjugate African people. And the faster we come to realize that, it will be better for us as a people. Let me give you something that I saw recently. It was when the US congressman was here. He went to Moko. And after Moko, he went to around Charleston, Albistown area. And there were African people who were so tuned. And this guy asking them questions, but they were put there to go to say to this guy, here, I am a contractor, I get contract. But I've made the point already, that before in fact, that these guys may get a contract now, but they don't get another one until next year. But from the contract, what they've made is $100,000, but they call them a contractor. What they've been able to do over time is to give to dribblings to some people in the African community, and they walk around and do their biddings. We have to use emancipation. I believe it's time that we use emancipation to do the very things that Tacuma and Vincent spoke about. We can't only go there on that day, as I call, let us go out and give them the moral support. We must follow up from that. We must work with these organizations. In no part of the world, you have a homogeneous behavior among a group, within and among groups. We will have differences of opinion, but we have to work together. And I believe that this is an opportunity, as these people are deepening. They are deepening what they've embarked upon. They have moved to the point where they are bringing your enemy next door to you to live, to create problems by having a concert at Maltino's just opposite the national park, where AGDA will be having its event. I'm saying that doing that is to pit a group, one set of people in a specific group against another set in the same group, putting us to fight. We have to move beyond that after this. As we move and we celebrate emancipation, we have to start planning to see how we can strengthen the African community in all the areas, the philosophical areas that have been spoken about by both Tacuma and Vincent. We need to do that. Let me tell you this. Mr. Jagdio don't care, what he does about African people. He means that there must be another rung of slavery. And the people who will become the slaves are the Africans. We who understand what he sets out to do, we are the people who will have to lead the way in correcting this situation. Many of us are afraid, to speak to communicate to the public about the intent of these guys. Let me tell you, these guys have privatized. Why did we start on the Desmond Hike? But they have given away the public property. You check it. Let me just give you an example. I was on the privatization board at one time during the PPP. And there was a building on Main Street. The principle is that the building goes, the person who get access to buy the building would have been the highest bidder. In that specific case, the highest bidder was BK Tiwari International. BK International. They withdrew that bid after it was done. The principle is that it goes to the next highest bidder. You know what they did? The next highest bidder was Solomon. Solomon. They brought it back to the privatization board to re-advertise it. I stood up against it. I stood up against it and said, this principle is that this person got to have it. And he had to go to Solomon. And you know what happened? They just bring the privatization board life to an end. And they move me off and they bring somebody else from the trade union. I'm saying to you, I use that as an example to tell you how organized these guys are. And how they intend to keep the African man in subjugation. While we can discuss it here, David, Vincent, Ogunseye, while we can discuss them here, we have to move these words into action. We have to move beyond talking about it. We have to move when emancipation next month, when the month is concluded. We must be able to sit down and look at how we are going to empower those communities out there. They are not going to do it for us. They have no intention to allow the African communities to be strong and economically viable.
To be strong.
We do it for ourselves. Let's start with it. Let's use this as a catalyst for bringing about the change.
Bringing about change. We are going to be using these observances. Certainly in Buxton, we are using these observances to up the ante of consciousness for resistance. Consciousness for resistance. On the 31st, please make sure all roads lead to Buxton. We are going to be having our Black is Beautiful concert. Leading artists, Yoruba singers, the only African Guyanese string band, Afrocentric string band in our country. They will be there. Buxton Fusion drummers will be there. The Buxton Pride Steel Band would be there. And a range of other artists will be there, singing, dancing, poetry, drama. Please, all roads lead to Buxton on the night of the 31st. There will be addresses by our leaders. Brother Aubrey Norton will be there, bringing greetings. Brother Nigel Hughes will be there, bringing greetings. And of course, I will be there as a villager speaking on that night. So our leaders will be there, bringing consciousness to us. And nobody will tell us in Buxton. Last year, we got a call from the Prime Minister's office saying that the Prime Minister is coming to Buxton and he will be speaking last. And they asked me to deal with him. I said, you coming to Buxton and you're speaking last? We in Buxton doing meeting and we decide who our speakers will be. And if you come out of respect for your office, I have 15 minutes on the platform. I will give 5 to you. Half an hour later, they call and say the Prime Minister is not coming anymore. But that's the kind of bullying that they attempted to do. And the worst place they tried to do that is to Buxton. It ain't happening there. It ain't happening there. I'm making that loud and clear. It ain't happening in Buxton. And I can say that. All those who say, well, he speak for Buxton. Yes, I do speak for Buxtonian. All your shit ain't coming to Buxton. As you all tried to do last year, and we stop it, it's not coming there this year. Good evening to all of you who are joining us. We would like to thank Diane, my countrywoman, for our contribution. We would like to thank Calvin. We would like to thank Claremont and the previous contributors, Yvonne, Ozia, Ingrid, Yonet. We would like to thank you for your contribution. Some of you, I'm sure, is contacting us on the local number, and we shall be in contact with you as to where you can drop your contribution. Let us support our traditional Black people emancipation. This is Black people business. This ain't nobody else's business. You understand? Nobody's going to invite me or Vincent or Tacuma or Lincoln to go and talk at Diwali. They're not going to do that. All right? And we are not going to push ourselves to go and interfere with those people things. But they feel that they can do it to Black people because the ice pass free. And part of it is that we encourage the ice pass because we always have some excuse to make about something. We always trying to be nice. We don't even want to say African. We don't even want to say Black. Thank God that over the last 4 years, with the work that's been done by IPADG, with the work being done by AGDA and all the other organizations, with the work that's been done on this program, which make it very clear that we stand with Black people, we stand with African people, we stand with other people who have other problems, that our primary function here is to socialize and mobilize Black people to have their equal place in Guyana. And so we have come some way. We have come some way, but we have a long way to go because there are still some of our people who are prepared to sell their community for a couple pieces of rusty silver. A couple pieces of rusty silver. We've got to push back. We've got to push back against the perpetrators. We've got to push back against the system. Resistance, resistance, resistance. Brother Tacuma, your closing thoughts.
Okay, I'm speaking here now not as a WPA leader or a WPA executive member. I'm speaking here as an activist in the African community, and if you want to say by extension, an African leader after umpteen years in this African struggle. And I'm speaking in the context of what is the requirement of African politics as distinct from party politics and electoral politics. I am saying objectively, the African condition can be addressed piecemeal. There is nothing we could do economically and socially to trigger economic activity at a rate that is necessary to catch up and to end the deficit between the Indian community and the Portuguese community. Don't fool ourselves, don't fool our people. The gap is too wide. And you could only shorten that gap by political action and renovating the economic and the political arrangements. And I'm saying we reach a point like what happened in America, when capitalism has reached a point in America where it's need to run off, it had to end slavery, and they started out to a civil war. I want to be clear. I'm not saying that we must go to civil war, but I'm saying in Guyana we reached this point where when you look at the economic situation with oil and the disparity between African Amerindians and the African Amerindian condition with the rest, okay, we reach a point where we have to correct the situation because oil gonna make it worse. It ain't gonna make it better. You don't know that. Therefore, Guyanese society have reached a point. If our leaders are honest, it's like the American situation, where if we continue with the oil boom and so, we know what we're doing to Africans and Amerindians. Therefore, we reach a historical point where we have to say, look, we got to address this thing different. As people who are victims of colonialism, slavery, and indenture, and the whole colonial European exploit, that we have to have power sharing. That is the only way we can solve this thing. We have to bring Africans into the power structure in a way that they don't have to worry about winning and losing the elections, vice versa for the Indians. And where we as an African people don't have to police the country and police Indians. We have been doing that for white people We do it after independence, and they see us as the oppressors, okay, or in the society. It is time that Africans stop being the oppressors in the army and the police and become business people making money. And we could only do that if we shift the responsibility for defense of the country, okay, equally among all the ethnic groups. If a war come tomorrow, who dead in 5 days? Who still control the economy? Who numbers still intact? You know, so we reach at a point where our leadership has to be clear. If the political parties still need time to work out, you know, where they're going, the African community have to make a statement, a historical statement at this point. Unfortunately, we're not in this context. We know that from slavery to now, whatever happened in Guyana, the external forces always play a big way. And we'll continue. We know we're in American backyard. There's about empire, and there's civil in a certain way of the context of the politics, all have to fit under that. For years, the American politics have undo Guyana, and by extension, undo all the ethnic group, including the African community. They get in the Cold War, antagonism, and all kinds of things, blah, 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 blah. This is the first time in the relationship between America and Guyana that I would say the American government seems to be seeking to correct the historical injustices that they have done to Guyanese. When the Biden administration, after what Trump have done, they must know what Trump do. It's saying in a nutshell, I'm not quoting, I'm paraphrasing, that look, y'all got an ample opportunity with oil, you know, to resolve your problems. But here, your big problem is your governance system. Until you got a more inclusive government system, are they going to end up killing themselves over this oil money? Now, I think the Americans have been fair and honest to us. And they have, and by extension, if I understand what they're saying, American diplomacy is open to the country to resolve the problem, to get to consensual and power sharing and a better governance system. Now, it is the most, we're out of the Cold War context. The Americans are saying, look, okay, we're in a new situation. We want to be more useful to y'all. But of course, we as a colonial, we as empire power, we're not going to come in and send you warships and force y'all to walk the right road. It is y'all leaders got to decide. And we're here to help. And my reading of this situation is that the Americans have put pressure on the PPP to concede to a constitutional reform process. We in the opposition and we in the country have been arguing for that. But I think the Americans quietly throw the weight on that. And I think the PP have committed reluctantly. This opened the gate for a renovation of the Constitution in a profound way. The PPP obviously has its line of march where they want to tinker with the Constitution. So they don't want nothing profound, but they want to set it the Americans in the world. Okay, you also give you a constitutional reform. We have it here. Look, we changed this, we changed it. The African people have to be a jackass. Avoid my, excuse my language for your program. Not to understand that's bullshitting. And we have to say this opened the process for a revisiting of the post-colonial governance structure in the country. And we're putting on the agenda an end to the winner-take-all electoral system. So at the end of the elections, when we don't vote race, we don't vote in a partisan way, the Constitution says, and they got to sit down around this country together. And I'm saying that will free Africans' energies, where we don't have to police Indians no more. We don't got to keep them out of power no more. We're done with this shit. Force Africans now to concentrate the energy, okay, on economic development to fast track and to make sure that within 10 or 20 years, we're in a better position economically. That is the challenge facing. We're actually going to wipe out. And any set of African leaders who understand that, they are traitors to the African people. I'm very clear. That's my closing remark.
And Brother Lincoln, your closing remarks.
I want to tell you this, that I don't expect anybody at any point to change without pressure being brought to them. But I believe in this, that what as leaders, all of you who I'm talking with tonight are leaders, African leaders, or African, or leaders in African community. We have a responsibility to make sure that we help our respective communities. Let me tell you, let me make this point to you, that a lot of people who take the dribblings is because they are put in a position where they can do better. We have to show them a way that they can do better. We cannot wait for a change to come from the people who don't want the change. We have to empower ourselves, and we got to fight. Next year must not be a year where we are seeing another event being held at Martino's in competition with what Agda is doing. We have to work to change those situations. I want to call on all our African brothers and sisters that what you should do is to, on the 1st of August, you should turn up and support Agda event at the National Park. That is what it is. Do not allow those men and women who are given trinkets to lead you and take you away from where you ought to be, and more so to help you in helping them to fight against what our ancestors, our forebears fought for. We have a rich history. We have to protect it. We have to allow our children to stand there, to remember that they're standing on strong shoulders, and life got to be better for all of us. Can't do different. Thank you, my brother.
Thank you very much, Brother Lincoln. And Vincent, your closing thoughts.
I think where we're at represents but a moment in a struggle. And we ought to recognize that the actions of the government trying to counter actors' activity, trying to demolish a strategy, that all of these are clear indications that these are the bodies that are doing the things that are counter to the government and are in the interest of the people of African descent. We must therefore unite around those bodies to continue the struggle. And in so doing, we must understand that to redress the state of the people of African descent requires action not only of the people themselves, but we must understand we have to take action. But action of the state, because the state of our economy, the state of many other things are determined by the state. And so we've got to bring the pressure to bear on the state. And I think Tacuma made a very important point. We've got to get to the point where we are sufficiently involved in the state that we can determine what the state does in the interests of all Guyanese, in as much as it addresses the state, people, African descent.
Brother Vincent Alexander, Brother Tacuma Ogunseye, and Brother Lincoln Lewis, thank you all very much for coming on tonight. We will continue to cover this issue next week as we move closer to Emancipation Day. Thank you all so very much. And to you, our audience, you continue to give us strength. You continue to give us hope that we can overcome, we shall overcome, we will overcome. Your contributions to this program with your presence here every night is invaluable. is invaluable. We are on a mission of consciousness, a mission of resistance, so that we can be treated as equal citizens in our own country, a country to which we have given so much and which has fallen short of giving us what, as a people, we equally and equitably deserve. Thank you all so much. Brother Dwaylen, thank you for your contribution. Sister Natalie, thank you for your contribution. And all the others who contributed tonight, Diane, Calvin, Claremont, Yvonne, Ozia, Ingrid, Janet, who launched us off tonight. Thank you all for your contribution to our Emancipation Fund. We are targeting three communities: Buxton, Denhamstel, Belgium on the West Coast, Babis, and of course, Coffee 250, to which we contributed last year. Thank you all tonight for launching the fund. As we say, we have to support our activities, the genuine activities. Please support them. And by doing so, you would be boycotting. Don't go to those things. Tell your young people, stay away from there. If you go there, you're really going there to dance on the blood of Quindon Bacchus, dance on the blood of those three brothers at Linden. You're going there to dance on the blood of the brother from Dartmouth or in Boston. You're going there to dance on the blood of Peter Endy. You're going there to dance on the blood of the more than 400 brothers who have been slaughtered under this government. You're going there to desecrate the struggles of all our people who have made their contribution and given their lives for us to be here today to tell the story. We are good people. As the old people say, Congo nation, a high nation, picnic. High nation. Congo nation, a high nation. No, they didn't say better nation. No, they didn't say superior nation. They say Congo, a high nation, picnic. Are you listening to me? Congo, a high nation. We are a people of dignity. We came here with our dignity. Over the 400 years on the plantation, we didn't lose our dignity. They continued after then for another 150 years of colonialism. We did not lose our dignity, and we cannot afford to lose it now. Our dignity matters. Our humanity matters. Let us continue to stay strong, stay strong, stay strong. Only we can free ourselves from the scars of bondage that are being visited on us. And to our brothers and sisters of other ethnic groups who stand with us, we say thank you. Thank you for the support. Thank you for giving us the encouragement that we know we will have to lead our children out of bondage. Let my people go. Tell old Pharaoh, let my people go. If you don't let my people go, then we are going to be forced to let ourselves go. Congo, a high nation, picnic. Congo, a high nation. I'll see you all next week. I think next week we're having Paul Slow dropping by next week. Nigel Hughes is dropping by next week. So we have a star lineup next week as we continue our struggle, our fight, because we are fighting on all fronts. We are fighting on all fronts, and we are building that culture of resistance, putting you in fighting mood, because power concedes nothing without a demand. Power concedes nothing without a demand, and we have to demand. We're not begging for anything in this country. We didn't beg to come here, and we're not begging for anything in Guyana. We are demanding it. We are demanding it. And those who want to call us all kinds of names and to threaten us, we are standing strong because we are black and beautiful. Black and beautiful. who don't like it, they know what to do with it. Because as I say, when they take race off the table, I putting it back. When they take race off the table, we putting it back. Because in taking race off the table, they want to hide what they're doing to Black people, but they shall not succeed. They shall not succeed. Not in this country, in this time.